Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, things adjacent, the most important news story on the face of the earth, way more important than a lot of the issues that are being talked about on news channels. Yes, these are all important issues, but they don't really, in the context of climate change, they don't really matter. We need to be talking about rearranging our entire economy. And I mean, I like giving people health care, and I like canceling student debt, and I like stopping the wars. I like all of that stuff. It just doesn't go far enough. In the context of climate change, it's spitting in the wind. You really have to start talking about, I think there are two ideas. So Tulsi Gabbard is talking about a peace dividend, right? What she wants to do is bring the troops home from all these wars, right? And that would save so much money. We'd have all this money that we weren't spending propping up all this military infrastructure all over the world, right? This is why we have an almost $800 billion defense budget. So she's saying, we could use that money as a peace dividend, and we could use that to fight climate change, or, do things for people at home, which is, makes perfect sense to me, right? That's totally logical. Although a lot of people would be like, what are you talking about? We can't bring troops home. We can't, all these crazy people are going to attack us. They're not going to attack us. We're the crazy people attacking everybody. We're the crazy people attacking everybody. Everybody else is building up their defense forces or trying to get nuclear weapons because they're afraid of us. They're afraid of us. If we stopped, we'd immediately release the pressure valve around the world. People would go, whew. I mean, I just saw a video of Putin saying we just pulled out of a nuclear treaty. But Putin just said not too long ago, a few weeks ago, that he's willing to restart any and all negotiations for the START treaty. And he's saying, this is crazy that we keep on having this nuclear arms race. So Putin is very aware of it. He doesn't want it. So if the United States were like, we're going to stop building nuclear weapons, or we're refitting our arsenals, or we're going to start destroying nuclear weapons, Russia would be like, can we get in on this? I'm sure that China would too. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. But these are important things to talk about, and I think Andrew Yang has another idea about giving people UBI, universal basic income, giving people, So let's take all those ideas, further and say, like, look, we're going to take some of the military budget, half or a third or whatever. We're going to fight climate change with this budget, and the way we're going to have to do that is to retool our entire economy. So we're going to give everybody enough money to live, or we're going to give everybody infrastructure, we'll bring the troops home. We'll have a peaceful force, in the U.S. We'll be training people to grow their own food, training people to do other jobs that don't require all the fossil fuels and the infrastructure of fossil fuels. We could be creating, green jobs or forestry jobs, or, whatever it might be. I don't know. Go use your imagination. That's one way to really, really start mitigating the effects of climate change and reshaping our economy. And if we did that, all the other countries around the world, the industrial countries, would go, yeah, we should be doing that too. I mean, China is already starting. Here's another thing that Putin said. Putin is very aware of climate change. He's totally aware of climate change. He's like, climate change is a serious problem. We're going to have to do something about it. So if we, the United States, did something radical, which none of the Democratic nominees really talking about, or candidates are really talking about. Jay Inslee is saying, like, yeah, climate change is going to destroy the earth and it's the single most important problem of our time. That's totally true. All the candidates need to be talking on this level, and we're not even talking about the how and how this mechanism works. So, I'm going to send this out to the universe. If any Democratic candidates see this video or hear this message, or if any other progressive channels want to talk about this, the entire conversation needs to be shifted. And I know, right? It doesn't matter. Who cares about the Republicans? The Republicans are already calling everybody a lunatic and crazy and a wild-eyed radical for just wanting some health care. Fuck the Republicans. The Republicans go take a hike. Stop caring about what really stupid, moronic people think about what you're trying to do. We're doing something totally logical, and talking about doing something totally logical. So, ignore the peanut gallery of the lunatic right wing. Anyways, that was a long ramble, and I really wasn't even trying to do that, but just felt it in my soul. I have a new Way Past What the Fuck to read for you. This is Michael Campy from his blog. This is from Monday, July 29th, Avalanche of Crazy. Starts off with a quote from Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide? No escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies, and see. California's AB 711 bans the use of lead in ammunition used for hunting and is, according to the press release, a huge victory for the health of California's wildlife and people. Evidently, the folks who wanted the toxins out of the bullets are unclear on the concept. This is such a perfect metaphor for our times. Apparently, intelligent people pursue all manner of frankly insane ballot measures while the world goes down in flames. California always leads the charge in crazy, and although I am a third-generation Californian on both sides of my family, I sometimes find that to be an embarrassment. We sell gas and oil leases like there's no tomorrow and then ban plastic bags. We have the fourth largest number of cattle in the U.S. and then offer one vegan option on school lunch menus to help combat climate change. This is some kind of serious biblical level crazy. While I'm no longer appalled by these pointless efforts, I am still in awe of what I call next-gen deniers. The next-gen deniers continually put out little fires while the conflagration that will consume us all burns unchecked. Like Doc Holliday said to Wyatt Earp, my hypocrisy knows no bounds. My home state has a long history of crazy, although, to be fair, much of it was imported from other states. This place is a curious mix of desperate poverty, insane wealth, natural beauty, and unrepentant destruction. Our current governor, in a San Francisco Chronicle article, spent the time talking about the business environment and the homeless problem, but not a lot of time, none, talking about the only issue that should be on the table, like the ever-widening freeways in Los Angeles trying fruitlessly to deal with the traffic. The homeless issue is not that there aren't enough houses, but there are too many people. While the entire planet teeters on the edge of destruction, the populace shops at Whole Foods and pats themselves on the back for being so aware. I watched this, and I am more convinced than ever that there will be never be a change of any kind. There will never be a time when the sleepwalkers open their eyes. There will never be a time right up to the end when the majority will wake up to what is happening. I am only kind of smart, and I know what's going on. It doesn't take too much smart to see the problem, just a modicum of awareness, but awareness is in short supply these days. So I smile and grin at the change all around. It's all that's left, that and laughing like a madman, which is how all of us who see the truth are perceived. Good stuff, as always, from Michael Campy. I'm going to link this below, and you guys can read that again at your own leisure and pleasure. And lastly, I want to bring you this blog post from Nick Humphrey, titled "The Most Important Event on the Planet Right Now." The most important event, this is from July 30th. The most important event on the planet right now, Arctic climate chaos, the state of affairs. The Arctic ice is currently at record lows in the northern hemisphere and at or near record lows within the Arctic basin itself. Further significant sea ice losses are expected this week. The sea ice is extremely thin, 1 meter or less throughout the Arctic Ocean, with anomalously large ice-free areas over the Laptev, Kara, Chukchi, and Beaufort seas. The Bering Sea reached an ice-free state very early. Also, ice-free areas are growing off the north coast of Greenland and offshore the islands of the Canadian archipelago. This is where the thickest ice of 3 to 6 meters used to be located. However, there is now only isolated areas with thickness of 3 meters, and much of it is only 1 to 2 meters thick. The ice is being removed by offshore winds now capable of pushing the ice out to sea. And I think I saw, too, that there was a bit of a cyclone. Was it in the Bering Straits? I'm not sure if I got that location correct. This detachment of the sea ice sheet from those coastlines is unprecedented. So here, this happened last year, too, where the sea ice unlocked from the coast of Greenland and also from some parts of northern Canada. The detachment of the sea ice from the coastlines is unprecedented and exposes the central Arctic sea ice to lower albedo heating, with additional dark open water running 2 to 8 C above normal around the Arctic Ocean where it is exposed, as well as large swells and high winds from storms as we move into August and September. In my opinion, this detachment phenomenon elevates the risk of major sea ice collapse and a new record low minimum for sea ice in the Arctic basin by mid-September. July 29th, sea surface temperature anomalies relative to 1961 to 1990 normals. Most of the Arctic sea ice is surrounded by sea surface temperatures 2.25 to 8 C above normal, or 4 to 14 Fahrenheit. The Greenland ice sheet is forecast to lose 40 gigatons of ice in a matter of days, enough to raise global sea levels to at least 1/10 of a millimeter. Peak temperatures Tuesday and Wednesday over the Greenland tundra may be as high as 20 to 25 C, or 68 to 77 Fahrenheit, with the interior ice sheet in the range of 3 to 5 C, 37 to 41 Fahrenheit, potentially higher. Darkening and resulting albedo reduction on the ice sheet is being caused by increasing meltwater, algae growth, and soot from fires in the Arctic. There is the potential for this week to be the second biggest melt event ever observed by Greenland. Greenland is forecast to be 4.9 C above 1981 to 2010 normals, or 6.7 C above pre-industrial early Wednesday morning. That's a few days ago. Fires in the Arctic are reaching apocalyptic levels. According to Greenpeace of Russia, 12 million hectares have been burned in Russia this year, with 3.2 million hectares actively on fire in Siberia as of July 27th. In addition to burning vegetation, and I actually heard Trump acknowledge this, that he's talking about sending help to Russia to fight these fires. But they're not climate change induced, Donald Trump. In addition to burning vegetation, carbon-rich peat is burning and will likely burn for months, releasing significant carbon emissions. There were 50 megatons of carbon dioxide released in June across the Arctic from fires, surpassing the total emissions released from the Arctic in June in 2010-2018 combined. By late July, total emissions reached 121 megatons, according to the exceeding the record emissions season for fire in the Arctic in 2004 of 110 megatons. Fires have not only burned in the Siberian Arctic, but also Alaska, the Canadian Arctic, Greenland, and Scandinavia. There are 72 active fires in Alaska as of July 29th, with 5 over 40,500 hectares, and 1 approaching 202,300 hectares, or 500,000 acres, as previously mentioned. Much of the soot from the fires will fall on snow and ice in the Arctic, reducing albedo and accelerating melting of both. Large emissions of methane gas appear to be venting from the Arctic basin. This can be seen via satellite atmospheric sounding data showing wide swaths in the middle atmosphere of the Arctic Ocean with emissions of at least 2,000 parts per billion of methane, considered a large concentration. Methane is at least 150 times more powerful a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide on time scales of 5 years or less, and is growing in concentration in the Earth's atmosphere. The highest concentration methane layer in the upper atmosphere is in the upper atmosphere. Global mean is near 1900 parts per billion. And northern hemisphere mean is likely in the 2000 to 2200 parts per billion range. A methane veil covers much of the northern hemisphere, with significant areas of high concentration methane over the Siberian continental shelf. Scientists studying the region predict more abrupt releases of methane from the continental shelf on the order of years to a few decades as the waters continue to warm because of sea ice losses. 5. The conditions favorable for extensive melting of sea ice, Greenland ice, and production of further large fires, namely very abnormal heat and drying of vegetation and peat, will continue over Greenland, much of Alaska, and central Siberia for at least the next 2 weeks. No station in the state of Alaska has been below freezing for more than a month. Further sea ice losses and abnormal heating will further drive jet stream wave anomalies and extremes, storms and heat waves in the northern hemisphere. So I'm going to link this below. Please support Nick Humphrey on Patreon. This is where his blog is at. You can also subscribe to Michael Campy's blog at Way Past What the Fuck over here on Blogger. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.